Football Playoff National Championship trophy presented by Dr. Pepper. Cincinnati thinks it's within grasp. But what is it about the resume that got the reaction from the chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, Gary Barta?
I would say the committee has great respect for Cincinnati. The win at Notre Dame clearly at Notre Dame is a really impressive win. When you look at their schedule after that, or who they played after that, who else did they beat?
Who else did they beat? Now look, I don't think that's true about Gary Barta, but there is this. Cincinnati's built equity. They played Georgia last year in the bowl game. It came right down to a field goal in the final seconds of the game to give Georgia the win. Now, I know Georgia had players missing and some guys had opted out, but if you go look at the tape, look at the depth chart and the box score from that game, 6 guys listed as starters on this powerful Georgia defense this year were listed as starters last year. A handful of other guys made huge plays. So look, it's not like Kirby Smart ran a bunch of Sigma News out there last year against Cincinnati. That's a legit team. But Cincinnati's legit, but it is a fair question to ask, how high should they be ranked, even if there is a cacophony of noise trying to stop people from asking the question.
Another snub for Cincinnati, undefeated, and it didn't matter. The win against Notre Dame was not enough.
That feels disrespectful to me to have them at number 6.
Who else did they beat?
Who was the chairman? I don't know.
Gary Barta from Iowa, I believe.
Barta, did he play football? I don't know. That would be something that bothers me more. You know, when somebody goes on there and wants to make comments about who you are and what you should do. This is who we are. This is what we do.
Perfect term for the snub is being friend-zoned by the college football playoff.
You can't just go undefeated. You've got to play all your non-conference games on the road, and you have to win every game by 50 points in your conference if the conference isn't all that good. It is a shockingly impossible standard to reach.
So outside the Power 5, Cincinnati has the highest ranking, breaking their own record. They're now at 6th. 6 undefeated teams have been left out of the playoff field in the final rankings, and one-loss teams have never been ranked higher than 15th. That's among those outside the Power 5. And I do feel obligated to clean up one question that has been brought up by many, asking whether Gary Barta played football or not. Well, he has 3 national championship rings, if that counts for anything, as a member of the North Dakota State Bison. So yes, he did indeed play football. All right, but there is 2 different kinds of questions here. Cincinnati, the resume is not going to measure up. So the question is, are they good enough? How good are they? What do you make of Cincinnati's case?
I'm glad you touched on the Georgia game for me. And I know we're supposed to look at seasons within the season, but it's human nature. If Cincinnati would have been blown out by Georgia, we wouldn't be sitting in Cincinnati right now for College GameDay. That's how big of an impact that game had on the 2021 season. Let's be honest with each other. They started preseason top 10 because they lost on a last-second field goal to the team that we all have above everybody else. And you can go back and look at that game, and there are a lot of the players that didn't play are in the NFL right now. So Georgia had pretty much a full complement of that defense, and they stood in the middle of the ring and played with him. So to me, guys, Des, I think it's about last year combined with what they're doing this year, winning at Notre Dame. And now they just got to keep winning, and they got to look better than they looked last week against Tulane, because that doesn't help their case.
Let's be clear about this. When it's a group of 5 team, it's all about momentum. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So the momentum from 2020 carried into 2021, and that's what we were expecting from the Cincinnati Bearcats. Don't forget, we looked at their schedule and said, okay, they went toe-to-toe with Georgia, and now they got Indiana, they got Notre Dame on the road. We all thought that if they handled their business against these Power 5 teams, especially Notre Dame and South Bend, then they would deserve to be in the top 4 when the initial college football rankings came out. Plus, David, they were number 2 in the AP rankings. So it makes sense that you would think, okay, this team, they've done everything that you can ask of them to do, and they're still outside of the top 4. That's why I agree wholeheartedly with what Joey Galloway said.
And the playoff ranking committee, they don't look at the AP. They don't care. That's not important to them, which everybody else looks at it and goes, wait a minute, there were 2 last week. Why haven't it changed? Here's the thing. Is anything Ohio State has done up at this point as impressive as a top 10 win on the road for Cincinnati?
Not opponent-wise,
No.
but style points-wise, for sure.
Style points,
Yeah.
maybe.
Explosive.
Now we'll have talks.
Ohio State beat Indiana 44-7.
Yeah, if you compare Indiana and
Correct.
UC.
And so I would say UC also doesn't have a loss. So I just, to me, when I looked at it, I thought they would be ahead of Ohio State because they had a quality win. They had a really good quality win. They don't have a loss. So at this point, I think it would have been fair to have Cincinnati over Ohio State for me.
I have Cincinnati number 4. Cincinnati 4, and I tell you why. They won every game this year you're supposed to, and they beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame double digit.
Yep, 11.
No,
Signature win.
They hit
Signature
beat them
win.
back.
Yeah.
So that, to me, was one of the most significant wins of the year. Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's a tough
Down the
place.
road.
Cincinnati, double digits against them. 4, Cincinnati 4, Cincinnati 4.
And remember, Notre Dame's got a legitimate shot to win out and go 11-1.
Yeah.
They need to be the biggest Notre Dame fans they've ever seen.
They are.
They are.
I don't
They
think
boo, though, when you say Notre Dame. They need to realize that's good. Notre Dame's good.
Everyone's focusing on the negative. They're the highest ranked Group of 5 team ever in the initial poll,
Ever.
initial ranking of the college football playoff. They're ranked ahead of 2 undefeated Power 5 teams. That's a pretty darn good place to start. Ohio State and Michigan State are going to play. Alabama and Georgia are going to play. Oregon has potentially 2 games with Utah and rivalry games with Washington and Oregon State. Losses are going to happen. And the other thing, you talked, David, Des, you mentioned the people. I love the people who, we got to get rid of preseason polls. They skew bias, and it's based on evidence and no games played.
don't
Now we
matter.
have a college football ranking where it's used based on evidence and games played.
Yep.
So Cincinnati's second in the polls that we want to get rid of, and 6th in
Right,
the
it's a good
rankings
point.
that matter now because we have evidence. So
Yeah.
which is it?
That's a good point. I think he just touched on something. Like today we can argue, everybody can be upset. The reality is there's going to be carnage all around, and Cincinnati's going to keep winning. Cincinnati's going to be in the playoff at the end of the year. They're just out on the outside right now and frustrated. But people are going to lose. They're going to win. They're going to move up.
All right, here's a
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.